Hey folks, I'm Sarah and I'm on the 2025 jury for what I think is the best book prize for literary fiction from small presses. It's called the Republic of Consciousness Prize, United States and Canada, and it is dedicated to literary fiction from small presses in North America. Over the next few months, I will be sharing every single book nominated for the prize, and while I can't share my personal opinions on each book just yet, I will share enough details so that you can get to know the book and the publisher. Every book gets its very own video, and you are not going to want to miss a single one. Next up is book number 37, My Clavicle and Other Massive Misalignments by Marta Sanz, translated by Katie King and published by Unnamed Press. While on an international flight, Marta Sanz discovers a small bump just underneath her clavicle and proceeds to freak out about it immediately. And what follows in the pages after this discovery is an obsessed, very intimate, very anxiety-filled account of Marta trying to discover what this bump is, where it came from, and what it means. So we follow along as she goes to countless doctor's visits and does many medical tests to try and figure out what this medical mystery is, which expands from just a bump underneath her clavicle to chronic pain and other symptoms are corresponding to it. Not only is she going to all these doctor's visits and doing all these medical tests, but she's also kind of probing the medical mysteries of those around her to try and figure out if maybe what these other people have and discover about their own illnesses could be what she has and what's going on with her. But also she's probing these other medical issues of other people to kind of see how her own medical mystery measures up against theirs. Meanwhile, she's traveling internationally constantly for her writing, and she is also kind of obsessing over her own writing and specifically considering what is okay for her to include in her writing regarding the people closest to her. What intimate details of her relationships with her husband and with her parents are okay for her to publish, and she's considering this and thinking this through while also including those very details in the book. But it's all bound within the frame of this medical mystery of the bump beneath her clavicle. And Marta Sanz is an award-winning novelist and poet and essayist and scholar and journalist, and one of Spain's most celebrated contemporary writers with a literary career that spans decades. But remarkably, this book marks her English language debut. She's published widely in the Spanish-speaking world, but this is her English language debut, and it was published simultaneously in the UK by Akoya Press. And Unnamed Press is a Los Angeles-based independent book publisher who started in 2014 with an interest in global literature and a desire to feature international and underrepresented voices. And since then, they've grown into more of a general interest publisher that remains committed to publishing a kaleidoscope of works that challenge the status quo. And in 2024, they launched an imprint called Smith & Taylor Classics, which they say aims to bring a curated list of underappreciated and progressive classics back into conversation. And I have several of those Smith & Taylor classics, and I love them. They're very, very cool. My Clavicle and Other Massive Misalignments has been described as autofiction in several places that I've looked. And so autofiction, if you aren't familiar with the term, is very much what it sounds like. It's autobiographical fiction. So there are elements of autobiography about the writer, about the author, but within a fictional frame. So maybe like in this case, the author and the protagonist of the book have the same name, or there are elements of the author's life that make their way into the book, but you don't necessarily know what elements are autobiographical and what are fiction. Examples of other authors that I've personally seen described as authors of autofiction are Sheila Heti, Ben Lerner, Claire Louise Bennett, lots more. I'm sure you could list them all for me in the comments below. Annie Ernaux apparently refuses the label of autofiction. I read that somewhere recently, which means that someone at some point thought to label her as autofiction. So in order for her to be able to refuse the label of autofiction. There's an article that I read recently by Christian Lorentzen, published in Vulture in 2018. And the article poses a question that I want to pose to you as well. I thought it was interesting. And so it says, one question that I think is pertinent when it comes to autofiction: what's more important, the auto or the fiction? So I want to ask that question to you. If you are a reader of autofiction, or even just a dabbler, or just are aware of the term autofiction, what do you think is more important, the auto or the fiction? And in this article, I think Lorentzen eventually comes to the conclusion that it's the fiction part that is the more important of the two. For me, I'm not so sure. When I read autofiction, I think I generally go into it, and I've noticed this about myself, I generally go into it without realizing I'm doing it. I go into it reading everything as if it is factually true. And then at some point, usually about halfway through, I suddenly realize, it's like it dawns on me every time, this doesn't necessarily have to be true. Like, most of this could be made up. Some of this could be made up. I don't know what's made up and what's not. And then from that point on, I read the rest of the book as if none of it's true. And so it just is a pattern I've noticed about myself when I'm reading something labeled as autofiction. And I think for me, it's that tension that makes it autofiction. It's the fact that it's both autofiction, it's both autobiography and fiction, and it's neither autobiography nor fiction. It's that weird tension that you have going on there that makes it autofiction and makes it interesting to think about and to read. It doesn't matter what elements of it are factually true and what elements are truth that the author is using fiction to get to. Does that make sense? There's factual truth, and then there's truths revealed by fiction, truths revealed by making something up, deeper truths maybe. It doesn't matter which is which. They come together to build the novel as a whole. I would be so curious to hear what autofiction you have read, what autofiction you have enjoyed. Is it a genre, I guess you call it a genre or a subgenre that you've enjoyed? Let me know your examples in the comments below, and this is my example for you. And that's just one of many incredible books nominated by one of many incredible publishers. The long list of 10 books is usually announced in mid-January-ish, but I guarantee you there are going to be more than 10 amazing books from these nominees. So if you love offbeat, under-the-radar literary fiction, you are going to want to follow along. Click above or below for the next nominated book. If I've filmed it, it'll be available there. If not, stay tuned for just a little while longer. And in the meantime, you can click the playlist below that will contain all of the nominated books that I've shared so far. Again, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.